ETSA. So we will move to the next one for the ISWC node. So this is by Zikang, Leng, right? Okay, please start off.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Zikang Leng, and I'm an undergrad student from Georgia Tech. In this work, we developed a system that can generate unlimited amount of IMU data using generative AI without any manual effort. So the largest problem, like in the field of human activity recognition, is probably the lack of large label dataset due to issues with annotations and also its cost. Also, we note that human activities are inherently variable, as activities can be performed in many different ways. Consider the example of walking. We could say a woman strolls leisurely along the beach, matching the theme of Cancun. Or we could say a man strolls aimlessly around the mall. Or something exotic, a woman walks cautiously along a tightrope. As we can see, all these descriptions describe the activity of walking, but the underlying movement are actually quite different, and the sensor data that we're collecting from the wearables will be different as well. So to train a model that can generate well and accurately recognize the different ways activity can be performed, the underlying training data needs to reflect this variability as well. So to tackle this challenge, we introduced IMU GPT, a system that can autonomously generate unlimited amount of texture descriptions and the corresponding virtual IMU data for the different ways of activities can be performed that reflects the variability that's present in real-life human activities. So to start, what we do is we feed in the activity name into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to generate a large number of texture descriptions for how a person can perform a certain activity. Then the texture description is fed into a motion synthesis model called T2M-GPT, where the texture description is converted into 3D human pose, as you can see at the top. Once we have the 3D human pose, we can use inverse kinematics and IMU sim to extract virtual IMU data that can be either used alone or in combination with some real IMU data to train deployable or hard classifiers. To validate our system, we decided to use 3 standard hard datasets. The first one is PadMap2. So in the horizontal axis, we showed the 3 training mode where a classifier is trained using either real data, only virtual data generated by IMU GPT, or both the real and virtual IMU data. As we can see, the virtual IMU data is very beneficial to the downstream classifier, as the classifier trained on both real and virtual data obtained the best performance. We see a similar result on USC and on real world as well. And I want to make a note that the classifier trained on just 41 minutes of virtual IMU data actually outperformed the classifier that's trained on almost 20 hours of real IMU data, which we find surprising. And we attribute this performance to the diverse texture descriptions that ChatGPT was able to generate, and in turn led to a diverse set of virtual IMU data, which allowed the model to generalize well. So what are some applications of IMU GPT? Well, the first thing that comes to mind would be large label dataset generation. We'll be able to use IMU GPT to generate datasets that's much larger than any existing label dataset, as we can generate millions of texture descriptions for each activity. Furthermore, we'll be able to use generate more activities, as well as we can expand the amount of activities in the dataset to hundreds of activities. And lastly, the skeleton generated by IMU GPT encompasses 22 joint locations, each of which corresponds to a location where we can put the virtual IMU sensor. So this means the generated dataset will include 22 on-body-worn virtual IMU data sensors. So combining all those 3 points, we can use the generated dataset to train robust, complex, and generalizable hard models that can potentially one day solve the human activity recognition once and for all. We have plans on open sourcing the system to the public, and more details can be found in our Git repo. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me using email, or I'll be in the back at the end of the talk. Thank you, and I'll take any questions now. Any questions? Okay. And please come next.
Thank you for the amazing talk and introducing this new idea of using Gen AI. So I have a question about the data sets that you evaluated on, since we know that different data sets have different characteristics, or like kind of the sensor noises or something that we see one model trained on one wouldn't work on another. So when you're generating the data, the virtual data, how do you make sure that they align to the data set itself? Like, for example, PalmUp2 real world, since they should have different characteristics, right, in some way.
Right. So yeah, in the end, there's actually a small step I didn't mention in the interest of time. There's actually a small calibration step that we're doing where we're aligning the two data to possibly avoid any domain gaps. And you can find more details in the paper as well. We basically followed the approach of YouTube for calibration.
So, could I ask a follow-up? So a small, okay. No? All right. Yeah, a small follow-up. As in, I want to know, so could you generate, as in, like a general model, could you train a general model that can adapt to all the different data sets or something? Or as in, like, for let's say, for different sensors on the body or something? Or do you have to have, like, kind of real data to align it in order for the application at the end?
So it's a question that, is the calibration required for every data set, or?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. So right now, we do believe it is a required part because there is some domain gap, but in the future, we're planning on exploring better ways to convert the 3D pose into sensor data to hopefully alleviate this calibration step, and maybe it will not be needed in the future. But right now, like, if you don't have real-time data for like the sensors that you're testing on, you can try to use all the data sets for calibration as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we can also come back to the video, maybe we can talk later. Because we will come back to this topic, maybe a question, because it is very interesting, and maybe in the second author, I think, second paper, we also have some, generations or the